I think those in western Kansas are going to have a pretty good view of it.
All right, the solar eclipse that won't appear again until 2046 happening tomorrow. What's the best time? Where's the best place to view it here in Kansas?
And tonight, thousands of civilians living in Gaza City have less than 6 hours left to evacuate. A mass evacuation, the UN says, is impossible.
It's going to be cold tonight. It's going to be cold tomorrow night. We're losing valuable time.
Time and options running out as state and local leaders work to keep Wichita's homeless sheltered this winter.
From KWCH, you're watching 12 News at 10.
Good evening. Happy Friday. Before we get to those top stories and weather, we have some sports breaking news. Cheney defeating Andale. Now, this is why it's such a big deal. Andale was on a 57-game winning streak. That is the best streak in the entire nation. That streak broken tonight. It was our Catch It Kansas game of the week, so TJ Cleland will be out there tonight with some of that coverage. Speaking of Catch Kansas Friday, it was a chilly start to our weekend, also windy, but that's starting to come down now.
Yes, it is. You can see right here where some of those winds are starting to die down. Here's Chief Meteorologist Ross Jansen with more on that.
And Rachel and Mike, we'd like to break the streak of windy days and dry days, but sadly it doesn't look like there's going to be any chance for rain in our weekend forecast. The wind has started to scale back a little bit tonight. It won't be quite as windy tomorrow. If you're getting an early start on Saturday, we think the wind gusts will probably be 20 to 30. Wind chills will be down in the 30s for a good chunk of Kansas. And then jumping ahead to Saturday afternoon, again, not as windy tomorrow, but it's also not calm winds. We're talking about gusts that will be around 30, not 50 and 60 like some of you had to put up with today. Your Saturday forecast looks like this. We start out looking at readings around 50 degrees in the morning. We'll warm up close to 60 heading into the afternoon. There's going to be a thick blanket of clouds covering the eastern half of the state. More sunshine is expected in the west, but regardless of what part of Kansas you're in tomorrow, most of us should be expecting highs in the 50s, and it will feel cooler than that with the wind factored in. In terms of frost potential, probably not a concern for Wichita tomorrow morning or Sunday morning, but Monday to start the day, we may be looking at some frost in this area. We'll come back with details of whether or not you'll be able to see the eclipse this weekend, and how soon will we start to warm back up? Find out just minutes away.
Thank you, Ross. A rare event coming to the sky tomorrow, the Ring of Fire solar eclipse. NASA says it will be visible in all continental states.
So you'll have a chance to see it here in Kansas. Like Ross was talking, weather may be a factor. Before you head out, Brandon Stitt has some things you need to know.
As Kansas sky gazers are getting ready to watch the Ring of Fire solar eclipse, you might be asking yourself, what's the best time? Where's the best place? And what's the safest way to get a glimpse? During the annular solar eclipse, the moon appears slightly smaller than the sun, and it's a spectacular view. And peak eclipse time in Kansas, Saturday morning at 11:47. And the best place to see it?
So based on the forecast for Kansas, I think those in western Kansas are going to have a pretty good view of it.
For those in or east of Wichita,
there's going to be this cloud deck hanging over the eastern half of the state. So for those in Wichita, you might have to pack up and drive about 50 or 60 miles southwest of town to get away from the cloud deck.
But before you head out and start gazing up,
UV rays from the sun is very strong. It can cause damage to the retina, which is a very sensitive area of the eyes responsible for visual acuity or sharpest point of your vision.
There are special solar viewers and filters needed to protect your eyes during a solar eclipse.
You think like the darkest, pair of sunglasses can shield off most of these rays. Even the ones that are marked 100% UV protective, like sunglasses, are not safe for, looking at the sun.
Look for glasses that are certified ISO 12312-2 and glasses that are not expired or damaged. Without proper glasses or a filter covering your eyes, Dr. Wynn says the damage is potentially irreversible. Brandon Stitt, 12 News.
Kansas courts reacting following a computer system breach that continues to impact courts across the state. The state Supreme Court says they will operate on paper while officials work with experts to figure out exactly what happened, how it happened, and the extent of this breach. They say the incident has already impacted a number of systems, including online court document filing systems and the district court public access portal.
Wichita's only emergency winter shelter will remain open this year. Today, city, county, and state leaders came together looking for ways to address the need for an emergency winter shelter for those experiencing homelessness in Wichita. This is after Humankind Ministries last week said that would not be the case because of infrastructure and capacity challenges. Humankind says that it will be able to open, but at a reduced capacity with beds for 100 men and for 40 women after it's able to make some upgrades. The plan is to have those upgrades complete by November 15th. For the last couple of months, the city has been looking at leasing a building to operate an emergency shelter for this winter with 5 locations in mind.
Right now, 100% of the focus is going to be on the emergency winter situation.
Using federal funds, so that's presented one of the barriers, as well as the fact that a lot of these buildings that are suited for it, they are not currently looking to lease out, they want to sell their building.
In addition to a building, operating an emergency winter shelter is estimated to cost more than $1 million.
Former KU basketball player currently facing a rape charge was enrolled at Garden City Community College, but that no longer appears to be the case. That school confirming today Arterio Morris is no longer enrolled at Garden City either. A statement from the athletic director says it's in the best interest of all parties. He was dismissed from the KU basketball team last month after he was officially charged with rape.
Today, cities all across the U.S. ramped up security as the former Hamas chief encouraged people to protest against the Muslim world. New York City upping its security presence in its transit systems and outside of places of worship. In Washington, extra security surrounds the U.S. Capitol. And across the nation, Jewish schools and places of worship close.
Nobody should have to worry about going to school or work or recreation for their own safety because of anti-Semitic violence.
Even though U.S. officials say there is no credible specific threat in the U.S., concerns continue into the weekend as people watch the escalating violence abroad and wonder what it could mean at home. Here in Kansas, the KBI is asking you to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity. In a social media post, the KBI says the Bureau is monitoring the war and does not see any credible threats to the state at this time. The Wichita Police Department also echoed those statements today, adding it's in contact with community and religious leaders to provide information and also reassure them. Police urge the community to remain calm and peaceful.
All right, we want to take you to the Gaza Strip tonight, where Palestinians have less than 6 hours since being told to leave the northern region of Gaza. More than 1 million people live in that region, now having to flee to the south. Civilians are packing up cars and supplies, anything they can. Some are fleeing on foot. Israel's military gave that order as a sign of a ground invasion. Could be coming soon, possibly tomorrow, in response to the Hamas deadly terror attack last week. Tonight, Israel's given the hospital in Gaza until dawn to evacuate. According to Doctors Without Borders, the humanitarian situation in Gaza is getting worse. They are desperate for food, fuel, medicine. The territory's only power plant was shut down because of lack of fuel. The war has claimed more than 3,000 lives now on both sides since Hamas launched the attack almost a week ago.
Moving more than 1 million people across a densely populated war zone to a place with no food, water, or accommodation when the entire territory is under siege is extremely dangerous and in some cases simply not possible.
Israeli military leadership says evacuating Gaza civilians will be able to return home only after the IDF announces it's safe to do so. No timelines being given. Today, the U.S. State Department says it's arranging evacuation flights to get Americans out of there. The agency says at least 20,000 U.S. citizens have reached out since the Hamas attacks. This is a look at the flyers that were dropped by the Israeli military over Gaza, calling on residents there to flee south. Near the river that runs through the Strip, Hamas militants are urging people to defy that order and stay in their homes. Tonight, because of this possible ground invasion and everything happening today, break down the Gaza Strip to show you first where those flyers were dropped and where the people are expected to flee. So Hamas breached Israel's border. That's that fence, the red line. That happened Saturday. That's the red and yellow area there. The flyers warn that anyone in Gaza who approaches the security fence risks being killed. They were dropped up here in the northern region in Gaza City, told to evacuate then down toward the south. There are 3 border crossings from the Gaza Strip. 2 near the Egypt border, all the way down here, and the other north into Israel. all 3 are closed. Rafah, the only functioning crossing controlled by Egypt, the only way out there had been hit by Israeli military. At least it's been reported it was hit repeatedly. Even if people are able to cross the river that runs through the middle, there are currently no viable options for them to leave Gaza entirely. So they're trying to get them to go to the south, from the very edge of the northern border to the river on foot. To get to that evacuation zone, that would take about 4 hours. Another Catch a Kansas Friday is here. Sports takes us to Cheney tonight. That big news, Andale losing tonight, breaking a 57-game winning streak, the best in the nation.
And we had an awful lot of wind today in Kansas. In fact, approaching hurricane strength in a few locations, like in Wallace, a peak wind gust of 70. Wichita had a peak wind gust of 46. Also from Russell, a wind gust today of 62. When we come back, we'll see how soon things calm down. One rain chance on the 10-day. We'll tell you more about it and talk about the solar eclipse next.
From KWCH, you are watching 12 News at 10. Online at kwch.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram.